The Rose of Tralee is a beauty competition that's been around since the 1950s. And these women are discussing whether it's sexist and dated.
Say that you can have single mothers, thrice divorced, bigamists, whatever. It is still essentially a lovely girls competition. And can you believe that it's 30 years since we saw that on Father Ted? Women are worth more than that. I mean, and what happens when you start watching it then? You do get to that whole, well, actually, they all do have lovely bottoms. What message is this sending out to wider society about what women are for, why women should be seen and heard,
but why shouldn't they be seen and heard? Like, that's the other point of it, you know? Yeah. And like, I think as well, like there was the Limerick Road last night. I thought she was very good. She like 7-year-old daughter, but what she was really pushing for financial literacy for women.
So I wanted to talk about in this video why the Irish media tends to dislike traditional stuff like the Rose of Tralee. What I think about that. What I'm not really doing is like talking about the personal lives or values or thoughts of the women in that clip. That just clip was an example. The Irish media generally can be seen to be quite puritanical, and I think the Rose of Tralee sort of violates some of the key commandments. For example, women shall not wear dresses, wear makeup, have fun, be nice, look nice, be women. So you can already see where like the Rose of Tralee might pose some problems to that ideology. The argument against the Rose of Tralee is undermined by the fact that the women who take part in it do so voluntarily, as do the 500,000 people who watch the thing, as do the advertisers who want to be associated with it. They're not doing it at gunpoint. So in a liberal society, you kind of think like, what's the harm? You know, like I didn't like the last episode of Game of Thrones. I thought it was 40 minutes too long. And even though I am objectively right about that, I've never tried to get it taken down off Netflix because, you know, somebody else might like that. And you know, what right do I have? It is natural in human nature to seek control over other people, though. And I think we do it from a place of like personal grievance and like insecurity. You know, we all know that guy who after one bad breakup suddenly thinks that like women shouldn't be allowed to drive. And even though it's so clear to everybody else, no matter how many times you say it to him, he just can't see it. He thinks it's real. He thinks it's just the timing is coincidental. Feminists will get around my live and let live argument by basically asserting that, you know, women have been brainwashed by centuries of cultural conditioning into doing the Macarena in front of Daithí O'Shea. And like a child who wants to eat chocolate for breakfast, you just have to take away the Milky Bar and replace it with muesli for their own good. For example, in 2018, when those feminists got the well-paid grid girls sacked from their jobs off Formula One because apparently they can't decide what they want to do for a living, this is somehow in today's society not seen as a sexist argument, even though it implies that like women are basically irredeemable. You know, they can neither make a decision or a mistake. They can neither take credit or accountability, you know. And although literally everybody agrees with me on this, everybody with a platform doesn't, you know. Unfortunately, there's a lack of diversity, intellectual diversity in the Irish media. That thing we all fund against our will doesn't represent all of us. It only represents a certain section of Irish society. And there seems to be kind of an unspoken belief kind of going around Donnybrook that if you were the type of person who instead of doing a 4-year bachelor's degree in heteronormative gender theory, you built houses for people who needed it, then you might be a bad person. It is ironic that just as we left behind the impossible moral standards of the Catholic Church, a change which Father Ted helped to usher in, we were laying the foundations for a different but equally impossible moral code. We've gone from purgatory to pronouns. We've gone from transubstantiation to transgenderism. And it's just like, Ireland reminds me of like that type of girl that leaves an abusive boyfriend only to find a new guy, and he, you know, looks a bit different, but he's pretty much the same. Like, the old guy gave her left hooks, the new guy gives her uppercuts, and she calls it progress. The lady in the clip, and I am talking specifically about the lady in the clip now, you know, she mentions that it's been 30 years since Father Ted satirised lovely girl competitions. It could be said that she's like the two priests holding up the down with that sort of thing and careful now signs outside the cinema because it was shown as a smutty film. Like, in other words, in this new Ireland, the Rose of Tralee does not meet her impossible moral standards. By the way, I do think that the Rose of Tralee, like everything else the national broadcaster produces, is shit. it's just that, you know, it's a sign of the times. In a moment where all of a sudden everything your grandparents believed in and lived by is declared to be oppressive and evil and, you know, unholy and, you know, wrong, you know, you need to create your alliances wherever you can. And so that's why I'm sticking up for the Rose of Tralee. Thanks so much for watching News of the Week. I'll see you later.